prune out the, people that might be getting in the way of the ones that are really putting in the effort and willing to do the things. And, sometimes, I mean, it's just kind of what it is, right? And we believe the best in everybody, but they've got to be willing to make the commitment and really establish the habits that drive success and weather any storm. I remember, the cool thing about that muscle, that prospecting muscle, is it travels. It travels to any market, but it also travels to any season of the market. Doesn't matter what's going on. And just like Brandon said, investors, that went away. We had to shift over to where the opportunity was, but we still had that muscle. And that's so key. I just vividly remember Tina Call conversation, right? And, moving out of Michigan to the Carolinas, and she took her muscle with her, which her muscle was that she could prospect. She wasn't afraid. So she just moved. So prospecting habits, I love that. Being able to establish that in newer agents. Any other challenges, concerns? Anybody else have one more? And if you guys are listening in, I mean, these are great things to kind of write down and to be thinking about, because as we start to really establish our goals, we're going to line out kind of what we want to accomplish. And then, what are all the ways to get there? And what are we excited about that we can leverage to help us get there? What are we concerned about that we need to overcome? That's a good strategy. What's a good strategy to overcome these challenges to be able to achieve our goals?
I'm pretty excited because I've actually been doing quite well. And it's been encouraging for me, because honestly, I was really a little worried because, business had just slowed down so much. But I did get in the vault, and I got some different things that I reviewed as far as marketing, as far as things to kind of even not only marketing, but kind of motivating for me. I think that when you get on like the vault and you read things that are encouraging, or you get new ideas, it helps you get really excited and you're more motivated. And so like I've got one closing next week, and I just got 3 more clients this last weekend for purchases. So I'm really kind of excited about that. And I have to tell y'all something crazy. I think y'all would never, ever believe it. I wouldn't have. You couldn't have paid me $1 million to believe it, but it's happening. So I have to tell you. Okay. I have this client whom is delinquent over on his government guaranteed student loans. Okay. We all know that the government can garnish your wages for government guaranteed student loans, kind of like child support, right? Okay. Well, this guy applied for a mortgage. I'm like, yeah, you need to at least try to get those, brought current and a payment arrangement, get something. And he's like, honestly, my lender told me I'm in good shape. And I said, really? So when I talked to the lender, I was like, I just want to get this clarified before I spend a whole lot of time on this client and my client spends a whole lot of time getting excited. I mean, he's delinquent on many student loans, over 3 years delinquent. And he said, yeah, it's okay. We do them all day long. And I said, you're kidding me. And he said, no, we are the mortgage company people come to when nobody else will do your mortgage. And this guy's buying a $305,000 home, not an incredible high dollar home, but it's a nice home. And his interest rate is 8.12. Now, is it a higher interest rate? Yeah, but I didn't think he could pull it off, period. And we're closing on it next week.
Oh, that's great.
Isn't that insane?
Yeah, there's always a solution, right? So even looking at these challenges and concerns, it's like, finding that who that can help us overcome that. That's great. Yeah, thank you for sharing. So this also is kind of what we're talking about here, is going back to what we talked about at the beginning of last month. We talked about that DOS, right? The dangers, the opportunities, and the strengths, and really trying to look through that. And so what do we feel that we have that are some strengths that can help us overcome our challenges and move us closer to some of our opportunities? Are there some key strengths that we're seeing other than kind of the prospecting efforts, the content efforts? Are there some other things, some muscle that's helping us get to, things that are working? What are some strengths that we have, that things that are working? Renee?
Well, I just think just knowledge, like all around. I mean, people actually have to negotiate deals now. And, for 2 years, everybody was just trained it's highest and best. This is what it is, least amount of contingencies or whatever. And we're really having to go back to negotiation strategies, holding deals together after inspections, which just lends itself to, future pacing your buyers for what to expect from these inspections. Same with your sellers, educating them on what to expect from these inspections, and just holding it together before you even get to that point. If you're able to nail that, way less fallout. We're seeing so much come back on the market right now. But if you can nail those skills, you have way less fallout and actually get people to the finish line, which is what people need. They need the deals to close. So.
Yeah, I think it's remembering how we have to, originally had to do things, prior to, 2021, 22, is getting back into, hey, the process and not skipping any steps, right? That's that saying that's been on all of my whiteboards. Skipping steps only presents the illusion of speed. And what's happened since 20 is that people have been skipping steps, and it's just a matter of time. You're going to get caught. Right? When the market was the market and average days on market or whatever, they're right, you would get caught quicker. Now, in the past, you didn't get caught, but now you are. And so it's just a matter of time. You always do. When you skip steps, you always get caught. And so getting back down to the discipline, like you said, Renee, and being, articulating your value, explaining everything, setting all the right parameters, the agreements, the understandings on the front end, and really working through and articulating your value throughout the process. And like you said, brushing off the negotiation skills and how to keep deals together. Like there's always a way. And in Ben Horowitz' book, The Hard Thing About Hard Things, he said, the only time you don't have a way out is when you give up. He said, there's always a move, always a move. You just haven't thought of it just yet, but there is always a move. And if you want to talk about one of the top 3 books, and it was the book that I gave to Jay when like things were the most bleak within NAEA, and we were all driving back and forth and trying to get the brokerage going. And I remember listening to that book, and I said, this book will change your life. And it was one of the most powerful books that he ever listened to. So if you guys are like some battles, struggling through some things, Hard Thing About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz is probably one of the best books to read. And it's from another industry. It's from the tech space. But that principle alone right there has always stuck with us, is that, there's a way. We just haven't found it yet, but there is always a way. So the knowledge, to me, that is a huge, huge strength. And I think, Renee, too, that can be flipped, that if you don't have that, that's a huge weakness. Right? Goes back to what John was saying. What are some other key weaknesses inside of the market that we need to be aware of, even with our team and even with ourselves, possibly? John, if you want to chime back in, I mean, is there anything to elaborate? Because that's a concern. Is that anything else there, kind of there from a weakness standpoint?
I think it goes to kind of what Renee was talking about, and you and I have talked about this. Now that I'm diving back into some of the basics of the NAEA training from the buy side and from the listing side, it's define, becoming that expert advisor. It doesn't just take writing a contract. It doesn't just take, picking a random number and putting that on an offer. You actually have to know your market. You have to know zip codes. You have to know pricing. You have to know, trends. Is the neighborhood trending upwards or is it trending downward? And then how do you fight and navigate the conversation that the public is hearing from a national level versus what's truly happening within your own local market, sometimes hyper local market within a neighborhood. So I think it's getting back to, I talk to agents, would you rather go to a surgeon that does one surgery a month or one that does 45?
Yeah.
Right. And, knowing the ins and outs of the actual market to call yourself that expert advisor.
Yeah.
I think it goes along with, it's not just the prospecting, but you actually have to know your stuff.
Man, so true. I'm glad you said that. And, I took them through the personal action plan. John, I took the room through the personal action plan this morning. 75% of the room didn't understand what a listing taken to listing sold ratio was. Didn't really clearly know what the average sales price was. Didn't know what the average commission percentage is. And, when you do the personal action plan and you reverse engineer that, it starts with, what's the income you want to make? And then what percentage is going to buy sell side? And then, getting that, and then just knowing those assumptions. And to me, that's like, man, out of those 75%, probably 60% of those people had been, John, they fall in that category. They've been in the business, 2-3 years, and they've never had somebody to explain and articulate that, what do I have to do on a daily basis within my control in order to achieve that desired outcome. And I helped this lady work through hers, and, her goal was like 400,000. And we reversed down, got all the way down to how many listings she needs to take each month and how many deals she needs to close. And she looked at me and she goes, "That's it." It's like, yeah, I mean, if you do that, but that's why you're not doing the things you need to do on a daily basis for that to be true. So that was really, really eye-opening to see. And so if you guys are running teams and if you have agents, get them through the personal action plan, like help them get clear on what they need to do on a monthly, and then break it down on a weekly, and then break it down on a daily basis of what they need to do from leads, engagements, dials, conversations, and appointments, like the things within their control. That's it. And, Blake still says to this day, that's the number one thing that keeps their company moving forward is the daily wins, doing the daily win activities. Sam?
I feel like that bubbles up another threat in terms of like when people lack some of those skills or that information or that knowledge, they then start chasing those bright, shiny objects like, hey, where can I buy these leads from? And so they're spending money on stuff that's not working. And then you have them, when they do get a listing, they're cutting their commissions left and right, which is causing a trend in the marketplace. I mean, I had to battle it on my team where someone took a listing and was offering a fairly low compensation to the buyer broker. And I'm like, whoa, let's talk about this. He's like, well, I'm seeing it all over the place. I'm like, well, do you want to be part of the problem or be part of the solution? And it's just, getting them to switch their mindset, saying, hey, if we're going to perpetuate that, then you're going to continue to face it on the buyer's end. And you've got to, like, again, articulate your value, know where you stand, and then make sure that you're giving what you expect to get, right? As opposed to just, oh, well, I've seen it offered at this, so why can't we do that? And it was a struggle. So, it's like, well, I have to do this in order to get this listing, or I have to do this in order. I'm like, no, you don't. He's like, you don't. So it's a huge threat.
It is. In the absence of value, people question price. So that's always the reminder. And, Jay was talking about that today. It's like, the race to the bottom, you don't want to play that game because somebody will always do it cheaper. Somebody will always do it cheaper. And we have to remember that. Like, no, like we're not going to be that person, because here's what happens is we establish that identity that becomes part of our brand.